Hello. Are you guys able to see me or is it still Andrea?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your time this Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to my session. And as always, have been a great fan of Utah Geek events. And this is an absolute honor to be presenting here today. Something that I'm going to talk about is BDD and its implementation in Agile test automation. Hope you guys are going to enjoy and have some very cool things to think about when you implement them. So starting off, I'm Oindrilla Sen. I work as a senior software engineer in WGU. A very little about myself, a little gist. I have been in the industry for a little more than 10 years now. Have been a T-shaped engineer, which means that I have started off with development, then did automation testing, went on to performance engineering, been thrown into different type of roles as and when required, and I'm absolutely loving it. Most of my career, I have majorly worked on Java, and it keeps just getting interesting with Java. But I also started off learning Python recently with a little bit of time on my hand because of the COVID and staying at home. I'm learning Python and I'm absolutely loving it as well. Currently, I work for Western Governors University. I stay in Utah with my husband. And when I'm, not really coding or not doing office or the geeky stuff, I really like to read a lot. And I finished What to Do When Machines Do Everything. So, people, if you have all those lovely questions about what to do when automation takes over, robots take over, and all that stuff, this book is something which you would really enjoy. So, moving on, uh, as we all know, today we are moving to a phase wherein the need of the hour is faster, reliable deployments, quick feature releases, having service-oriented architecture, which reaches to maximum scalability possible. You should have a robust framework. Your application should be bug-free, compatible for iPad, iPhones, Android systems, and everything. In this situation, it's important to evolve in two ways. Firstly, as engineers, we need to focus on getting on new role. When I say new role, I mean moving towards a more T-shaped engineering aspect, wherein you should be you should have a minimal approach and knowledge about development, deployment, automation, and then actually getting the framework ready and pushed to the mass audience. At the same time, your process should also change accordingly. For quite some time, when we talk about testing or when we talk about automation testing, the needs have been extremely clear that we want the bugs to be caught as soon as they are deployed. We want the test suite execution to be fast, the tests to be accurate, and they should be reusable, easy to manage, and they should obviously have very clear and ambiguous goals. So unambiguous goals, sorry about that. So this is a very clear and thumbs rule expectation from test automation. Uh, there are few things which have worked pretty well for us, but if we go further and to my next slide, you will see there is some sort of issues with this. Now, when I set clear goals, uh, you might be extremely clear about your goals because you had the information passed on to you from the developers or the documentation that has been available. But if you do not understand how the real world behavior is to be expected, you might land into a situation like this. For example, this is a funny, picture that I took up from the internet, wherein if I had to automate the testing for a washing machine, the instruction comes says that put your clothes in the washing machine, but it does not specify whether you need to take it off or you need to be in there and push it into the washing machine. You might land up into this type of situation. So it's not that you did not read the requirements correctly or you did not foresee this kind of situation, but it's just that you did not actually take into account the behavior that you should have. So this is a dangerous situation, people. And so that's why moving on to BDD. Now, if I have to lay down very general practice or the general steps that we follow while getting a project requirements to the step wherein we are deploying it, it would be majorly, getting all the requirements, understanding what is expected from the end product. Most of the time, your project manager will be the one who will gather the requirements and set it across. After that, if you already do not have your architecture in place, you might want to have a discussion about getting the architecture developed, languages selected, the kind of DBMS and the schema structure. Post that, the developers need to start off, and in an agile framework, you definitely would like to break it down to the smallest tickets possible and start all kind of development work. And after that, the automation testers come into picture, wherein they need to grab the code and understand what the code is doing, understand the happy path and the requirements, and just create scenarios which are all positive as well as negative and incorporate into their automation framework. And after that, there is the need of a running document which will detail out everything. Now, this practice has generally worked extremely well for pretty good amount of time. But when today you see the increased scalability and the increased requirement of faster deployments, there are some situations which are not exactly handled by this. The key for the regular practice right now is to catch the bug fast. You are expected to have your automation script ready as fast as possible post deployment so that you can catch the bug fast. Now, challenges with this approach is what if there is an edge case situation which you did not think about? Or what if there is a scope creep which you were not aware of and hence did not, kind of manage it into your framework? Having this thing deployed into production is not only catastrophic, but also puts a question mark on the team, reputation, company, and the confidence of the customer, and all that kind of thing. So, moving away from catching the bug fast, what we need to incorporate in our development is to try and prevent the occurrence of bug. Now, for some people, like when I was actually uh, advocating for a BDD and moving out for the traditional approach or the TDD, there was a lot of questions that Oindrilla, what is the difference? I don't really see a difference in what you're talking now or what you're actually implementing. So I will try in my future slides to try to explain what exactly I'm talking about. But if I have to point out one of the biggest changes that BDD is going to bring out in your development methodology is this will change our nature, change our approach toward bug finding, and it will try and prevent the occurrence of bug. So what I mean by try and prevent occurrence of bug is when you know the nature of an object, for example, a washing machine, when you know that that particular appliance is made to clean your clothes alone, there is no need for a human person to be inside the machine. So that's the nature, that's the behavior of the appliance. So unless specified otherwise, there is no way somebody needs to jump into the machine with their clothes on. So this is the way we understand the requirements, we understand the behavior of the appliance or behavior of our project, and then work towards getting the automation script done. So very simply, if I have to say what are the steps that we follow in BDD, the step one would be, of course, first get the requirements. Now here, please, the first step is something which is extremely important. Here we need to concentrate about what is that we are trying to accomplish. The what is extremely important. Now, when you say what is important, if I have to go on with the example of the washing machine, The what here is cleaning the clothes, not the how. If I talk only about how, then comes a lot of additional question about, do we want a man inside? Do you want do you want somebody to place the clothes inside the blinds by hands? Are there, is there a need of additional, stuffs for, putting the clothes inside? So rather than concentrating on how, we need to concentrate and understand what. And again, to understand what, we as a team, we as an engineers need to collaborate right from the beginning of the project inception. There have been a lot of times where I've seen that most of the developers are a part of the requirements gathering, but the QA engineers or the test engineers are generally not. So, and of course, the pattern is changing these days. It's not the same right now. I have seen a lot of people are, actively participating in the requirement gathering phase as well. But in order to make a robust and a very highly functional application, it's important the entire team is always on the same page and there's massive collaboration. So to understand what you're trying to do, collaborate right from the beginning. So even if you are a developer, a cloud engineer, or a tester, or a project manager, start collaborating right from the beginning. Then the second, and then the next very important stuff that you need to do is that even before the coding has started, start creating your automation script. Start creating your automation script from the viewpoint of an end user. You should behave as somebody who's going to pay for this app, pay for the software, and hence wants everything to be perfect to the T. You need to understand what exactly do you want, what exactly do you expect to see when you log in, what exactly you do not want to see. Everything should be captured right, right from the inception of your project. You should not wait for the code to be committed and then start writing your test cases. This writing of your test cases also acts as a running document for you. It will be, some sort of documentation which can have massive amount of information which can be passed on to the other teams who are working. This also acts as a reference point for other developers who are just coming and joining us new. So yeah, so this is one of the biggest change from the traditional TDD to PDD. Now, moving on, the fourth step is, of course, the developer works on generating the code, and the testers are working to ensure all the requirements are met and the products are working as expected. So here, the developers and testers kind of work at the same time. They both are working almost uh, like in the sprint, they both come into picture at the same time. So the moment your developer has committed the code, start testing. You do not need to wait. You have your test cases already ready, and you just need to test if the behavior is met or not. This helps to catch any sort of bug in lower environments, and it is definitely more accurate way of testing. Um, some of the biggest advantages of using a BDD approach for your project development is definitely fewer defects. Uh, excuse me. And then you have faster bug identification. You have quicker fixing of bugs because, as I mentioned, the moment you have something which is not working as expectation, quickly go back and talk to your project managers and make sure that he's aware if there's a scope creep. So the collaboration is much better. So definitely there's quicker fixing of bugs. And of course, there's no scope creep because you were involved right from the beginning. You had massive collaboration, so you know exactly what all is to be expected from the application. So there is less scope creep and definitely less rework. And as I already mentioned, that there would be a working document right from the start of the project. That means you're handling a lot more information within the application. You're adding a lot of more changes. You're adding lots of details. This kind of documentation is something which really adds to the intellectual property of the team as well as the company. So yeah, and of course, the most important, a happy customer. When you have everything in place, you're hitting the deadlines. You are not having scope creep. You have ample time to make any modification that has come up. Definitely, you have a happy customer. So this is something which exactly can be achieved using a BDD approach. Moving on, let me give you a very, very simple example of uh, BDD or test automation code. Now I have kept it as simple as possible, and I have not used any of the any of the details that you cannot get over the internet. I will be using the documentation for Cucumber framework and giving you a very, very simple example, and I'm sure you're gonna like it. So this okay, let me just give you a very brief example of what I'm trying to do with this program. Now, what I want to do with my test here is I want to check if today is Friday. So if today is Friday, my program should just tell me that, okay, it's Friday and this is gonna, this is Friday. So this is gonna be like this is just testing what day today is. So if it's Friday, it's gonna give me TGIF. If it's a Sunday, it's going to give me a no, that it is not a Friday. And if it's any other day of the week, it's again going to give me a no. So here, what I'm using is I'm using IntelliJ. There are a lot of other applications which you can use if you're whatever you're comfortable with. IntelliJ is something that I have been using for quite some time now, so I'm more comfortable. But this framework can come handy if you're using Eclipse or you're using any other languages like Python or stuff. So uh, going here, whenever you want to use the Cucumber framework, the first and most important file for you in the program would be your feature file. Now, what happens, something that you called a test case is called a scenario in Cucumber framework. So each and every scenario is something which you would like to test, which you would like to, kind of run automation around. So if I have to talk about the example that I'm taking right now, it's about to check if it's Friday yet or not. Now, something to notice here is I have chosen the name of the feature file as is underscore it Friday yet. So it's always a good practice to name your feature file exactly the way, exactly the same as the feature that you are testing. If you do that, you make your code more readable. Mhm. You make your code more readable and you make managing and usability of your code much better. So the next thing that it starts is with the feature keyword. And here you're trying to test or you're trying to find out if it's Friday yet or not. And everybody wants to know if it's Friday. No, people, it's Thursday. It's not Friday yet. But yeah, coming back here. So here we are using Gherkin language. And if you see, this is exactly the way we generally communicate with each other, right? So if you and your teammate have to discuss if it's Friday yet, uh, I think this is how you're going to do. Like, is it Friday yet? Given today's Sunday, and I'm asking you if it's Friday, what should my answer be? My answer should be no, it's not Friday. So it's as simple as that, putting into this particular framework. So you have to have a clear understanding of what exactly is the date, what exactly you are trying to test, and then you have to understand what are you testing it with. So coming down to this framework, you have this, and then you have very nicely put out your scenario in the feature file. Okay. Now the next important step would be to have your step definition. Now you have already created your feature. So to explain it to you briefly, you have created the umbrella structure of any, you have created the umbrella structure of the behavior of your application. Now, if you're making a calculator, you would be having that if there are two numbers and it needs to be added, you need to give two, you need to give the sum of the two numbers. If you need a multiplication, then you need to have two numbers and choose the multiplication operator and return the result as multiplication, the product. You have to return the product. So that's how you need to understand what the behavior is. Once you understand the behavior, then you need to, you know, write the code which actually will implement the behavior. Now, something worth noticing here, people, is uh, if the code or the actual software is yet not deployed, this does not stop me from writing my automation test script. The reason is simple. I have my framework in place and I know the behavior of the application. I know what exactly is the expectation of the application. So as long as I have that and I can understand the kind of data that I need to play around with, I don't have to wait for the code to be actually deployed before I start my testing. Of course, there are times where there's legacy system and the code is already in place, so that's altogether a different situation. But if there's any new feature, you do not have to wait for the application to come into picture. You can very properly get into the framework and start writing it. So this is something which will save time and also give a guideline about how quickly the testing can be completed and how quickly the bugs can be, you can find the bugs or identify any sort of scope creep, if any. So to give a very high level example of how we are performing on this, let me show you what we have done here. We have imported the Cucumber framework, and there's this given, when, and then. You can learn about more about Cucumber framework on their docs. And I have a class which has to return, which actually makes a check on the Friday thing, and it checks from the system whether it's Friday. And based on whether it's Friday or not, it returns either TGIF or no. Now, this structure, people, if you see, is the one-liner if-else statement. This is your Friday, it is checking the condition. If the condition is true, it is returning TGIF. If it's false, it is returning no. And moving forward, you also have to define what exactly do you want to print, if any, or if you want to give the details about what exactly the system needs to do. So what I have done here is I have my class defined. I have a string variable and I have a string variable actual answer. And then I'm using the annotations given, when, and then. So a lot of people will find similarity between an if else and if else if then statement. In a way, it is that, but it is in a much broader sense because here it's the behavior of the application that we are talking about. So we have very clearly identified that if it's a string, then try to find out whether if it's like which date it is, and then if it is actually a Friday, I ask whether it's a Friday yet, then you again have to perform the similar activity. And just for understanding, I have printed out the actual answer. And then this is the action you need to check. You need to perform if at all your conditions are met. And that's why this will be the actual answer. Now, this is my feature. This is the step definitions. And I'll come to the third part a little later. Something worth noticing here, people, is there are a lot of times when people get confused that if I have to, start automation, which language would be the better for me? Do I start learning Java from scratch, or do I concentrate on Python? Or if there is, JavaScript, what should I actually, start learning with? So if you ask me, my simple answer would be, as long as you understand the requirements and behavior of your application, you can code in any language that you want. I think it's completely on you and your organization framework that they're using. You do not have to concentrate on any particular language to understand BDD or to write your BDD test cases. All you have to do is understand the requirements, understand what the application is expected to do, and write and wrap your test cases around them. So here I have used Java and IntelliJ. If you are more comfortable with Python and PyCharm, go for it. So coming back to the third, which actually runs my my Java test, it's this. I have not written much of extra code here, and I will just be executing this to ensure that you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so people, so we have the system returning which date it is. And right now, given this is Friday, so if it is TGIF, when I ask whether it's Friday yet, then I should be told TGIF. So this is what the outline is. And when my tests are actually executed, it's given today's Sunday, and I get an answer no. When I say whether it's Friday yet, then I should be told no. And if there is anything else, I should again be told no. Now here I have executed 3 times. I have used it, I have kind of executed it 3 times to show the 3 different structures or the 3 different test data that I was working with. Let me get back here. I was working with, and for the first time, I have pushed a real Friday as a string so that I can get a positive. And for the other 2, it was taking the system date, and I see it's a no. So very simple test case, extremely easy to implement. But yeah, you can use the same framework and make more complex stuffs. So I will be showing you another example. Let me go back to this thing. So this is something which I use for my actual work. I have just used the bare minimum features, details that I can use for this presentation. So here, if you see, I am working on a test case wherein different users will have a different sort of page given to them based on the role they have. So if you see, the outline is use website with username, and given I use username to log in. When I have an admin, I should have the particular page details to be returned. So when I'm Oindrilla.Sen and I'm using this thing to log in, I get admin.htm. And if I use anything else, this is one of the test user, that is t.covers, I get story.htm. So this is the way you can actually work around, fiddle around with different sort of test scenarios going on your head, identify edge cases, and create it much before your actual code is deployed. So if I have to give you a brief step-by-step process to how to start your BDD automation, then the first thing would be to install Cucumber. You can very easily download that. It's freely available. You also have freely open source Git projects available that you can use for studying and learning. But apart from that, you can very easily install Cucumber. After that, you can have your first scenario using the Gherkin syntax. A lot of study materials available online. And I particularly feel this is one of the easiest syntax to follow, even if you had no prior experience with coding or automation testing, you can still pick it up pretty easily. And then, of course, the step definition, which I showed, there will be the step definition. And then you have your features and use the step definition and your test cases as and when you want within your framework. And then run Cucumber. And all the examples that I have taken is from this particular website. So if you want to go back and learn more about it, you can do that. So this is what I already spoke about. This is one of the outlines that I use heavily on my projects. So yeah, so that's about it, guys. This is what I have, and this is my LinkedIn profile. If you ever want to, connect with me, have more discussions about automation and Java or Python, I'll be more than happy to do. I really hope that you guys implement BDD in your projects and see what sort of magical things it can do to you. It makes things so much more faster, so much more, interesting, and it helps us move towards uh, having a happy customer always. So yeah, thank you so much, people. And if you don't mind, if you could just give me some feedback, I believe the feedback link is on the left of your screen. So just quickly, let me, just give me some feedback and I'll definitely try to work upon them. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the sessions.
Thanks, Oindrilla. That was fantastic. I'm waiting to see if there's any questions that are going to be coming in. So if you have questions, now is the time to put them either in Slack or in Slido so that we can take a look and have her answer your awesome questions. So I had one question and I think I missed it because I got distracted. What does BDD stand for?
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have probably explained that before. But it's behavior driven development.
That is fantastic. And your examples were amazing. And so I loved it. But the whole time I was like, I missed it and I wanted to know what it was. So thank you. Thank you. Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Is anyone else asking questions? I know that there's like a 30-second delay. So I'm trying to like buy just a little bit of time so that people can type in their questions if they have them.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
What got you interested in behavioral driven development?
So, Adia, I was doing a lot of stuff and I always felt I didn't do enough. And there would be those sneaky bugs which would always slip off. And there will be scope creep, and there will be situations wherein we are doing those late night deployments and we are just staring at the screen on a day when we should be going out and catching a movie with your family. So, so that kind of moved on, that kind of helped me to go ahead and look for better alternatives and do some more research for myself. And that's when the BDD thing started. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, because I know that I have been a victim of those bugs where they've woken me up because they needed help with something, and so I totally agree. I think that this is fantastic so that you can catch your bugs faster. I love this, and so it's very exciting to me to see it. I
Sure.
am going to
Yeah.
check one more time to see if there are any other questions. Coming up at 5 o'clock, there is a networking session. I think it's in either room 6 or it's in the hallway. I'm not sure where, put on by Goldman Sachs, and it's going to be fantastic. So please make sure to attend the networking session because part of attending these conferences is not just sitting in front of your computer, it's also networking and getting out there. And as Greg McMurray said in the last session, which was fantastic, he said, you never know, you may find your next boss in the hallway or your next coworker in the hallway. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Sure.
do you have any other parting words for us?
I would like to leave everybody with a thought that uh, do they still believe that there's a siloed nature of developers and testers, or do they believe that we all are into this together and we can very easily take up each other's role and work on it? So maybe I'm going to leave everybody with that thought, and let's see like how we are planning to move towards the T-shaped engineers that is the need of the hour.